The Hoover suction sweeper, the first upright electric vacuum cleaner, was one of the many labor saving devices that began to transform the life of women in the first decades of the 20th century. A slow seller at first, the sweeper was marketed with one of the first home trial offers. The Hoover story is a heartwarming tale, although more of a small town business to multinational corporation rather than a rags to riches kind of story. It can be held up as an example of the American dream. The person who realized the dream was not the inventor of the world's first electric upright vacuum cleaner, James Murray Spangler, but his financial backer. The dream was realized by his business associate and cousin by marriage, William H. Hoover. That's why in Britain the name Hoover and vacuum are used interchangeably. We don't Spangler the carpet, but we Hoover it. According to the Hoover website, Spangler worked as a janitor in Canton, Ohio. This is true, but it fails to mention that he was an inventor with several patents for agricultural machinery to his name. Unfortunately, he was not a good businessman, and he never managed to strike rich from his inventions. Hence, in his late 50s and suffering from asthma, he was working as a janitor at the Zollinger department store. Because sweeping the store's carpet made his symptoms worse, he decided to make an electric sweeper that would suck the choking dust into a bag. Starting with a manual rotary sweeper, he added a sewing machine motor and leather belt to turn the sweeper brush and power a fan that blew the dust into a pillowcase. In 1907, having established the principle, he improved on the design, applied for a patent which was awarded in 1908, and established the Electric Suction Sweeper Company. Unfortunately, Spangler's lack of business acumen let him down once more. He did not have the funds to mass produce the sweeper. He demonstrated the machine to his cousin Susan Hoover, who was so impressed that she told her husband about it. William Hoover owned a horse harness store in North Canton, but with the growing popularity of the automobile threatening his business, he was looking to diversify. He bought into Spangler's patent and invested in his company, which later took its new owner's name. Spangler continued to work for Hoover and to improve his invention, but he died suddenly in 1915. Although the suction sweeper was superior to its competitors, because, as the advertising slogan proudly boasted, it beats as it sweeps as it cleans. Early sales were slow, but Hoover hit on the idea of a free 10-day home trial in which the customer only had to pay to return the sweeper if not completely satisfied. The marketing ploy worked, and within the next decade, Hoover had established itself as a leading global brand. Hoover was fortunate that he was marketing a labor-saving device for the home, just at the time when the role of women in society was beginning to transform. Labor shortages during the First World War had forced many women to go to work, and social trends such as female emancipation and the appearance of alternative employment to domestic service made the vacuum cleaner extremely attractive to homemakers of the 1920s. Although promoted in periods as this little machine, the Hoover Model Zero was a 40-pound or 18-kilogram monster that must have given its operators a great workout. However, compared to the alternative, sweeping carpets by hand or hanging them outdoors to beat them, the suction sweeper must have looked like a marvel. And compared to earlier powered vacuum cleaners, which were mounted on horse-drawn wagons, they were amazingly compact. Spangler's original design for the upright suction sweeper, although it got smaller, lighter, and more powerful, remained largely unchanged right until the development of bag-free vacuums in the 20th century. A brush at the front of the machine turned and later beat, dislodging the dirt from the carpet, and a fan powered by an electrical motor sucked it into a bag. Wow. I would take that over the alternative that back then, if they needed to clean the carpet, what they had to do was to hang it outside to dry, and then on top of that, beat it. They had to just beat it with a machine and hope that it worked. That is crazy. That is totally crazy to me. like and again, I remember seeing it in movies, like these old movies that I grew up watching or TV shows. if you know this, you are old person, and I love that because I'm an old soul. But Scarecrow and Mrs. King, the image that was going through my mind when I was talking about the Hoover or the carpet being hung out to dry and then beat it with a machine. I just remember this scene with Scarecrow and Mrs. King is just out there like beating all of her rugs